The whole Michael B. Jordan and Delray Lindo situation, the outburst, it was on purpose at the BAFTA Awards. They did this on purpose. I'm going to tell you why. So you want me to believe that in Black History Month, 2 black men are receiving an award for a movie that dealt with racism and they get called the N-word and it doesn't even get blanked out? The Palestine speech get blanked out, all this other stuff get blanked out, but they don't blank out that specifically. Now, the guy who made the actual outburst, I'm not saying he did that on purpose. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is BAFTA was banking on that outburst. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you already know this by now, but for those who don't know and are still wondering why is a random guy with Tourette's sitting in the front row at the award show, he's not just a random guy sitting at the front row. He actually has a movie or a documentary about Tourette's coming out. So he's actually an activist for Tourette's and he's trying to bring awareness. Now, honestly, he definitely bringing the awareness with this one because the whole world talking about it. But like I said, I believe he was exploited and they did this on purpose. They had him sit in the front row and they was banking on that outburst. That's why they didn't blank it out. I got a lot more to say about the situation, but I don't really like to speak on stuff unless I'm 100% confident about it. See, I'm confident that this was on purpose. I'm confident that they left that in on purpose. And I'm confident that they were banking on that outburst. But I'm not confident about saying that John is racist. I can't confidently say that. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that the dude is racist. I don't know. I do know he has Tourette's. We all know that. And when you have Tourette's, you can't really control your outbursts. But there is a possibility. I'm sorry to say it. There's always a possibility. And here's why I think there is a possibility. The timing on this was just way too perfect, bruh. The timing was way too perfect. So you telling me as soon as I don't know. I didn't even watch the award show. So how many times did he have an N-word outburst? Or did he conveniently only have an N-word outburst when the black people were on stage receiving their award? That's what makes it a little weird. You know, he could have just shouted the B word on stage, which he did. But he used the N-word first. He said N hard R, then B. What a coincidence that you have the N-word outburst when black people are on stage. So I honestly don't know where I stand on it yet. I'm still trying to educate myself on the situation. Maybe y'all can educate me. But just to add a little bit more flavor to it, I do got some clips with black people with Tourette's giving their take.
I have Tourette's syndrome. I was diagnosed over 30 years ago. As you might be able to tell, I'm also a very proud black man. I also have coprolalia, which means I sometimes tick socially unacceptable words, including the N-word. So you might imagine I have some thoughts on the BAFTA controversy. Let's go. So I know everyone has a lot to say on this incident, a lot of anger and outrage, which I understand, a lot of opinions. Just want to make sure we're able to put that outrage and required empathy in an intersecting controversy and issue with the information that's needed on a complicated thing. When I was elected over 15, 16 years ago, I was thought to be the first first elected official with Tourette's syndrome. And thankfully, that is no longer the case. And people with coprolalia only make up about 10 to 30% of people who actually have Tourette's syndrome. It's important to remember that it's not just a lack of a filter, it's an involuntary compulsion, whether it's vocal or body movements, and it can also include very bad intrusive thoughts. Now, before I was diagnosed, my mother saw a 2020 special. It actually had a man who was white, and his tick was one of his ticks was the N-word. This was over 30 years ago. I'll pause there because I'm going to come back to it in a moment. Now, obviously, we want to practice care when we're speaking about the person who has Tourette's syndrome, who is the ticker, because they also require some grace and some consideration. Regardless of the reason, a word like the N-word can cause a lot of harm. There's some spaces where it's not just about whether you're making noise, whether you're moving in a way that people might be a little uncomfortable. This is a very specific thing. So I'm only speaking about the N-word and use of it in different spaces. You also have to provide empathy and care for people who are receiving it, like Delray Lindo, like Michael B. Jordan, like the thousands, if not more, of people who heard it. They deserve some care and compassion as well, and I believe that's where the ball was dropped. I don't think there was enough care that was provided. And there's some ways I want to talk about how we could have and how BAFTA and others can do better in the future. Back to that 2020 special. That white man who had tics of an N-word, what he used to say was nickels, pennies, and dimes, and he augmented it in a way. And I learned to do that when I was diagnosed.
There's something I have been asked to talk about. And that is going to be the BAFTA situation. I have been seeing a bunch of outrage about it. People saying, oh, well, why would that even be in his vocabulary? I've been seeing a lot of people be like, well, he said it like when the crowd went silent. That is most likely when a tic is going to happen when you're in public. We must understand what coprolalia is. Coprolalia causes involuntary swearing and inappropriate tics. This can include the N-word, slurs, etc. I am a Black person and even I have the N-word tic. Is it a disappointing thing? Shut up! That it happened in public in front of that entire crowd, specifically to Michael B. Jordan and the other presenter. I'm so sorry, I do not know his name. I wish I did. Yes, it is a very unfortunate situation. Seeing so many people say that they would invoke violence against people with coprolalia if they can't control their tics. That's ableism. It's something that we can't control. Aggression in the brain being triggered and ultimately causing inappropriate tics. Michael B. Jordan and the other presenter have the right to be upset, especially if they were not aware. However, we need to understand and educate ourselves. And on my videos, I constantly see people saying, so funny, if I had cursing tics, I would be laughing all the time. But when people actually have cursing tics, then it's offensive and they're a bad person. This is not me saying that people don't have the right to be offended. However, you can't be offended when a disabled person is...
I'm more than qualified to speak on this. What he said there was totally unacceptable, and I can understand the anger from Black people. As a person living with Tourette syndrome, I can't automatically call him a racist. Reason being, I've said a lot of things that I really didn't mean, and it was just, it's like when you think it, it wants to just come out your mouth. Growing up, and my mother could testify to this, I used to call my mother a stupid S-L-U-T all the time. All the time. And my mother understood that because, you know, in the beginning, she didn't understand how it worked. But being her child, eventually, she understood. That's how it works. It's hard to explain. Only people with Tourette's understand how other people with Tourette's work. Again, I'm not trying to justify what he said. Could he be a racist? Absolutely. Do I think that automatically, knowing how I struggle with it? Respectfully, of course.